Now we will go to my good point. I actually hinted at it earlier. You know, it's obviously pretty tough in the modern day to find like a good angle on the Astralis topic, right? Like, even believe it or not, to me, the numbers Blame F puts up aren't that great because it looks like the team doesn't know how to actually interact with his fucking frags. Like, it feels like he just performs on his own and there's 4 guys fucking up. So the one thing people have noticed by now, it's obviously a massive narrative they push on the broadcast, but it's something you could notice even from the LANs last year, right? Everyone remembers the first LAN with k0nfig was obviously the one that Launders referred to working out earlier, the fall finals. And in that whole tournament, actually, k0nfig was fragging out like a motherfucker. It really looked like he had just like wound the clock back and he was just back in like 2017 or whatever. He was just the man. He was just the shit. But everyone knows since then, he had a massive slump and his numbers went to shit in the game. Like, look, I will always say a player like k0nfig, you cannot see in the stats. Like, in fact, even the stats will usually show you he's killing a lot of people. He just might die a lot as well. So it'll even the number out, you know, and he might not look that insane. But I'll just say this to you. You don't get like 0.75 kills per round as an entry if you are shit at the game. Think it through, guys. It's just that the plus minus is going to be different. That's why I don't care what James' plus minus is, and I do care what k0nfig's kills are, but not the plus minus is the role, right? So to me, though, the one thing that is unusual is for a team that's struggling, and he himself's had his struggles, he has genuinely become one of the best Ancient players in the entire world. It isn't a joke. And for me right now, on Ancient, he is unbelievable. Like, I actually think it's not even hype. I know people think because of like people like Yakinda who overall are better, like you shouldn't say he's the best entry fragger on Ancient. I think it's legit, mate. I've watched the games. Like, I don't think that team has any business winning some of these matches. And you'll notice, even when he does these games where he drops 30 kills and like 110 ADR, they win him fucking 16-14 or in like overtime. Like, this guy is literally... So Ancient is all him. Then Nuke, like half the time at least, he just does all the fucking work on that map as well. That's like half of Astralis' map pool, guys, on one guy's shoulders. Not only that, the guy who's getting criticised, because as I just said, if the numbers aren't sick, people assume he can't be a star player then. So, to me, I think this is a massive upside. Like, there's plenty of things about Astralis you can criticise, plenty of problems with them and potential, and who knows what's going to happen. But this is, to me, just bona fide good. Like, he's just, on this map at least, he's got something. He's got some magic. And for me, that's a map. If you have a good entry fragger, you can fucking rule that map, mate.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's the second best player on the team probably because, Blame Up just more consistent even in the off periods. k0nfig's always been so inconsistent, unfortunately. That's just the way it is for him. And the funniest part about Ancient is that, like, when they first played it, when they were on Complexity, they said they had never played the map before and then came on, played it, and they, like, destroyed the other team because Blame F and k0nfig just, like, ran down mid, and they just had, like, a natural affinity for it. And I bet you anything, knowing k0nfig, you know this, Thorin, if you asked him, why are you so good at Ancient? You go, I don't know, it's just my map. Like, he'd have some answer like that. Like, he just feels it for whatever reason. So, no putting your finger on it, but they're so lucky to have that. Because, like you said, Ancient and Nuke are both core for them.
Oh, by the way, that's the other thing. A lot of people, because of, like, movies, they want to seem like they have the swagger and, like, projecting him. He isn't doing that, though. Like, one thing I do like is when he'll have some, like, slick comment, that actually is who his persona is. Like, I'll give you an example. It's a bit like the old school player. Some people know him from CS 1.6, the old Canadian great player, Shagwar, right? The legendary AWPer, right? He also is another guy where that isn't just, like, some slick, like, camera persona. Like, one time, because I was friends with him, right? I was talking to him one time about his setup, and Shagwar was famously, like, a mega fast AWPer. But if you ever looked, he was like Guardian at Launders. He was one of those guys who had the mega low sense setup, but they've just used it forever, and so they're fast, essentially, just because they've always used it, right? So I once said to him, like, how can your sense be that low, though? Because basically, he was one of those people who had to do the entire, like, enormous, like, like a fucking giant square pad. He had to do that for, like a 150-degree turn or something. And I was like, how could it be that good? And he was like, I'm just that fast, bro. But, like, when you say it like that, like, with nobody around, and instantly, it's like, you just have that persona nailed, but that isn't even, like, a fucking canned line, like, fair play. Yeah, I agree. That is exactly who k0nfig is. Like, the thing about k0nfig is, I understand why he's inconsistent, mate, because I don't think he knows why he plays well or plays bad. I think he is. This is why he had the most perfect quote to summarise him. When he tried to join Astralis, and he said, straight-faced to fucking Zonic, I don't want to do any media, bro. I just, like, something like, I just want to frag out. Like, that really is what he thinks about Counter-Strike. Yeah. I love it in some ways, because it's so ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, you wrote like the article about him a long time ago. I can't remember what the title was, a pretty slick title, but it was just about how, like, he's just destined to be kind of like always too good, always too good in everyone's eyes, like never good enough, basically, in the server, like never reaching his peak consistently. And I mean, it probably has something to do with the fact that he literally has no idea, like, why he's good in the first place. Like, I can't understand that because I can't relate to that as a player at all.
Oh, it's weird, isn't it? I know.
Yeah.
I talked to k0nfig after Katowice because we just had the same route home, so we were like at the airport together, and I kind of just touched on the fact that they had a good ancient, and the only line he really had for it was just like, yeah, but it's our only good map. So basically, that goes that goes back to kind of he's just really modest like that. And actually, this kind of works out because I actually looked at a couple config demos on my own because I was just curious what I could do to just start running over pugs by play like k0nfig basically on ancient, and it's like k0nfig's theory for mid control on the map is basically do something even if it's a 50-50 by 55 seconds in the map in the round. Like if you just push into donut or really into red room more often than not, like top mid, he's gonna just do it, and he doesn't care if he loses the fight or not, basically. And it's almost the speed he does it with, which is it almost catches people off guard because at the same time you've got Blamev trying to come into cave, you got like there's some pressure from Farlig now at A ramp or B ramp, and basically you don't. And also k0nfig just walks into A lot and just takes a raw dry aim duel with somebody, and so he basically is what so many people are just too pussy to do, which is just take a raw aim duel within a minute of the round, and that just opens everything up for Astralis, for Glaive to mid round, and even if he dies in mid especially, then it just gives his team an avenue into the B bomb side. So basically he's like, the way I described it on broadcast is he's just like the crowbar for that team. He's like the skeleton key of ancient. He'll basically open anything, any door open for the rest of the team, and then they can work off of it. So yeah, honestly, if anybody just wants to learn how to just run train on people on ancient, just watch config demos because he literally gets the timings better than anybody right now.
That did make me realize that like one of the most impressive games that I've watched on the YouTube channel, just watching one person play a spot all half, was k0nfig playing Cat on Mirage. And
oh yeah.
This idea of him taking like, 150-50, but with so much, like so deliberately, with so much conviction that like he'll take his rifle, peek off Cat, hold that hard angle to top mid. But when he has that feeling of those timings, he will hit that shot. He will have it perfect crosshair placement, and he knows exactly when to pull off of it. And maybe because he just leans so hard into his intuitions that like when he doesn't have that feeling, that's when he's like, oh, I just wasn't feeling it. Like I don't have that game. But when he does, he can make like 5 right decisions in that round, make it a 4K, and get that like 24-5 score line, just like perfect CS for like an entire map. But he will take like a risk that you would maybe only have an opera take in that same situation.
One of the weird things to me is like for some reason people who are like mega aimers, they sometimes actually like I think like underestimate their skill set. Like they sometimes don't think that because they take for granted that like everyone must have some aim or so. I don't think they realize how good they are at it. Because to me, 2 players, k0nfig and Twists, are 2 obvious ones that stand out now, like bonkers mechanical aim, like raw tracking, precision flicks. And like if you ever watch them play, the reason you know these guys are gods of aiming is because there is no shot they ever hit in a sequence that ever actually seems to make them react in any way whatsoever. And I don't want any fans going, no, pros are like, they aren't. There's loads of pros that when they hit a bonkers shot, you can even see them sort of being like, fucker. Like some of them, you can even see they don't even expect to get the kill. They're sort of like overspraying still. Like these guys, for real, they really do that shit where it's like, right. Like, so this is why I'm actually mad impressed with Twists and people don't even bring him up that much. The amount of 1v3s I've seen him win during this LAN period, the last 5 months, where he's just in one where it's like, you're not even supposed to be able to get the second kill. Like the first 2 guys double peek you and he just like 1 bullets each in the head. But then, because like I say in his brain, he's like, yeah, but that's what I meant to do. Yeah, oh no, I better just turn and then kill the third. It's like everyone else would be going like, holy fuck, what? Whoa, I never thought, like you did at least react. Like these guys are just fucking robots, aren't they?
Yeah, Twist is the player that Shroud wanted to be. I think there was this one conversation.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, one conversation. I mean, you put them in deathmatch, the same player. Like they kill, they're unkillable basically. I had this conversation a long time ago with Valdo when he was super new, and he was just saying that he was playing on Cobble on B versus Shroud on the other side of the smoke. And he said when Shroud was on CT side on the other side of the smoke, he was putting no pressure in, no spams, no pushes or anything like that. Valdo said it was no problem. And then they swapped Shroud out with Stewie, and Stewie was like throwing nades, spamming smokes, pushing the smokes. And Valdo was saying, man, if I had the aim of Shroud, I would have been pushing that smoke every single round. And yet he didn't do it. So you never realized that potential at all. Just didn't believe in himself in terms of his mechanical ability. When the guy who's on the other side of the screen is terrified of you, he doesn't even know.
Yeah. The famous Twist quote on his Twist quote on Cobble, I think it was like post game, maybe like 2017, is that I don't know why this became a meme for like for a few people in the NA space, but basically he said he was playing drop, and they're like, "Why are you playing drop when your aim is so good?" And he's like, "I like playing drop. I like a challenge." And
yeah.
he's just carrying.
He loves playing the hard spots. Yeah,
he likes the hard spots. Yeah,
it's a bone. He's got like a bone to pick with like. I think honestly, it probably has something to do with like. Okay, this is total conjecture. I mean, this is not.
Of course.
Whatever his personality or whatever, but he had like this whole thing with bullying or something when he was younger, and so this can be a huge thing about proving himself. Where he's got really nuts at playing hard spots, and that's who would you want? Someone who plays squeaky on cash, someone who plays drop on cobble, like every spot that nobody wants, and you got a guy who's willing to stand in all the grenades, like take fights by himself. Like that's beautiful, and so that's how Twist kind of made his brand, basically playing all the hard spots with the best aim.
Sure. And by the way, these guys at least have periods where they're mega. I actually think low-key, I've got to mention on this topic, the player I always thought was the most ridiculous example of someone who didn't understand his own skill set was fucking Flamey from Na'Vi. Dude, this guy for real, he's another player, mate, where if you just give me his skills, I will play completely differently. I would probably be an entry player. Like, I thought he could do so much. When you watched him play, though, he has to be one of the most scared, like, good aimers I've ever seen. Mate. It was mad, wasn't it? Yeah. And he would just play boring, like you say, just play like simple Counter-Strike, like fucking hell. He could have done. That's why I always understood why they kept him on the team. I've no doubt, like in random scrims, he was probably incredible. He probably just took over the whole game, but everyone knows he was just like the most eternally fucking underwhelming player in the actual server, unfortunately. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.